Welcome back to Derry Public Radio. Reporting from the basement of the Derry Civic Center, this is CM Alexander with the news. Another year of nonstop action is coming to a close as we approach the finals for Derry Public Library's Dodge Book Tournament. Let's go live to our sports correspondent, Dr. John Hellajohn, for all the details.
Thanks, CM. What an unbelievable finale. It all came down to a one-on-one battle for the title. It all ended with a brutal book to the head that had this reporter asking, "Are you there, God? It's me, Migraine." Congratulations to this year's winners, the Judy Dooms. Until next year, you're listening to Derry Public Radio.
This is Derry Public Radio.
Welcome back to Derry Public Radio, a bi-weekly Stephen King book club podcast. I'm one of your hosts, Joshua Kahn, alongside CM Alexander.
Hello, everyone.
And Benjamin Graham.
Hey, concert readers.
And today we are wrapping up the finals of March Madness.
I hope I win.
Wow.
Yeah.
That was dramatic.
Yeah. We're recording this in a stadium.
I don't think there are winners. I don't think any of us win.
You didn't fill out your bracket in advance. You can't win.
Oh, fuck. God damn it.
Oh, I still don't know how this works. Sorry.
I'm still not sure how it works. If we weren't the ones arbitrarily deciding, we could totally play, but we can't. Our listeners can, and a few of you have, which, by the way, listeners, thank you for all of the brackets you've sent in.
Yeah, that's been
awesome. It is awesome to see how close some of you are with how these things have broken down.
And how we might not get a bunch of hate mail because you largely agree with us.
All right, so now tonight, we're finishing it. We've got 2 matchups for protagonist, 2 for antagonist, and then the finals. I don't even know how we're going to judge the finals.
I got an idea.
But I can't wait to get to it.
I've got an idea.
Yeah?
We'll see.
All right, cool. So we're going to jump right into it. We're going to go down the protagonist side, and we're going to lock in our champion protagonist.
Hell yeah.
First matchup, Alan Pangborn versus Charlie Mcgee. Who wants to go first?
Charlie Mcgee is, how old was she? 8?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And she essentially single-handedly destroyed a branch of the military.
That is true.
She is a fucking superhero. It's hard to decide because in these things I always gravitate to who would win in a fight. It's hard to ignore that when literally one side of the matchup can make the air on fire.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Alan can make a can of worms real, or a snake in a can real. But your point stands.
I don't think that was Alan.
Yeah.
He has the white on his side, I guess.
Coming to the semifinals is difficult because we've already talked about all of these people and what they've done. So I think for me, going into it, my gut instinct says that in this round, I want to talk more about what these characters are capable of. Not necessarily stuff we saw, but what is their potential?
Oh, shit.
And Charlie, because this story is her at 8 years old, Charlie has just so much potential for what that character can grow into and accomplish. And it is, when I saw this matchup, I was like, oh, it's a no-brainer. And then the more I thought about it, as far as that angle of potential, Charlie's got a lot of wiggle room, I think.
I, like Ben, kind of have a hard time not thinking about who would win in a fight just because of how powerful Charlie is. I also feel like she would continue on to be a good person, and I anticipate that she would try to use her power to help other people. So she's definitely got that going for her that makes her a really strong protagonist.
Also, if we're talking about potential, I love that idea for judging them, is judging them on how they would react outside of the bounds of the book they're in. Where Charlie has boundless fucking Phoenix energy potential, we actually do see Alan again, kind of. Because isn't he in season 1 of the show Castle Rock?
Yeah.
And he's just an old man?
Yeah, but that's if you were to consider season 1 of Castle Rock canon.
Sure. And also, I never saw it. So, but like, imagine he's been through some traumatic shit. After the events of Needful Things, I think he retires. He has Polly. I think they just go away. They just run away and are happy the rest of their life. That's great. I'm happy for this hypothetical version of a fictional character. But when it comes to potential for further adventure, I don't think there's really that much there.
If we're, without spoiling it for you, with the first season of Castle Rock, if we're going to, for the sake of this conversation, make it canon, Alan didn't so much have further adventures, but he did dedicate the rest of his life to stopping the worst evil he'd ever come across.
Huh.
Yeah.
Watch season 1 of
very,
Castle Rock.
I know that's super
watch,
vague.
I need to watch Castle Rock. I don't know why I haven't, honestly.
He's stayed in Castle Rock and he is an old man now, but there's a reason that he has stayed, because he knows how important it is to be what stands between the world and evil.
Huh.
He's a gunslinger.
Alan's definitely a gunslinger.
Oh boy, that just kind of
I
threw a wrench in the...
That's what makes it hard for me, comparing the two. I really like that gunslinger aspect is always going to give someone a leg up for me. It's very near and dear to my heart because Roland is like my favorite character.
Oh, if Roland was in the running, we wouldn't have to be doing this.
Yeah. Thinking about, okay, like if it was Charlie facing off against Gaunt, she would have just like blew him up and it would be done. Alan didn't have that power and he still defeated him. And he had to pull something from inside of himself, like his faith basically, and create a weapon out of that wasn't just power, but was clever. You know, similar to our It story and characters. The weaponization of what he had within him was more about heart and being clever and understanding your enemy. And I think that makes for a really interesting protagonist too.
Well, shit. Okay.
Now, in this, I'm going to go back to you guys wanting to see Alan fight a child.
No.
You guys, you said it, and I'm going to carry it on. I agree that in a, like, celebrity deathmatch arena style, Charlie wins hands down. But I think if, let's say this book is Charlie has lost control of her power. She's gone Dark Phoenix, and she's, laying waste. And it's up to Alan to bring her in and capture her. I think, I'm going to say something real weird that just hit me. I think Alan would have acted very similar to Rainbird. I think as far as the cunningness to set up, like when he does capture them, there's
not admiring her bare feet.
Yeah, not his feet and not pretending to be afraid of the dark. That capture scene, like we see the capture go perfectly, but it's implied that there were several contingency plans to make sure it went out. And I could see Alan tracking her down, hiding with a tranq rifle, and taking a smart approach.
I would think he would act more like Rainbird, except sincere.
Yes.
Where he would approach her and try and bring out the human side of her, which I think he would do. Also, I was going to save this for the finals, but I think we've stumbled upon how we judge these semifinals. Is each matchup we have to pretend it's a book.
Oh, yeah.
I think so.
It makes sense.
In this book, it is Charlie is a little older and she has lost control of her powers and she's laying waste. And for some reason, Alan Pangborn has to stop her.
I was thinking about the same thing you guys are saying, him having to stop Charlie for some reason, but I imagine him using the same approach he uses in Needful Things for all children, just trying to connect with her, even though she's, maybe she's gone rogue and doing some magic tricks.
Jean Grey.
And Jean. And trying
X-Men.
to basically like use his genuineness to get her to surrender to
That
him.
would be such an amazing scene because both of them, it's a parallel to such important scenes for both of them, because for Charlie, it's she can't trust him because he might be another Rainbird. For him, she's another Brian Rusk, where something terrible is happening and he has to help her.
They both win.
Fuck, this is a good book.
Now, let me ask, in this story, we have basically posited a story wherein we've made Alan the protagonist and Charlie has almost become an antagonist. You could write it more elegantly and make it not that way. But doesn't the idea that we immediately put Alan as the protagonist in the story say something about Alan?
It kinda does.
And it says something about Charlie, too, and sort of that underlying seed of doubt that you have about people, not only with that kind of power, but also people who have experienced things that you know are going to make it difficult for them to trust, to make the right decision in the future.
It's going into a book that neither of you have read, but Dr. Sleep, it's a grown-up Danny Torrance. So we have a bar for how that King characters that start off as children, if we revisit them later, not always super great.
Ooh.
So there is a chance that if there were to be another Firestarter book, that I would think the natural progression would be for her to fall into an antagonist role.
King tends to, historically, has written women who have this sort of power as tragic figures. I would fully expect Charlie's story to not be a super happy one.
Yeah.
You'd still like her, but yeah.
You'd still root for her, but in the end, it all comes
So are we all going to vote at the same time or what?
CM, it's your vote first.
I want to say Charlie, but I can't. I'm sorry. I have to say Alan Pangborn.
Ben?
I, honest to God, when you read it off, I thought Charlie. I was going to choose Charlie, but CM changed my mind literally with just the words, he's a gunslinger.
That's all it took.
All it took. And immediately I was like, fuck, you're right. Yeah, he wins.
Yeah, Alan Pangborn. All right, Alan is moving on to... this is the quarterfinals, not semifinals. Alan's moving on to the semifinals.
I don't know what the difference is.
I will explain it to you some other time.
Quarter is 4.
Well, I get that, but
Semi is 2.
All right, our next protagonist quarterfinal, Rose Mclendon versus Andy Dufresne.
What the fuck is this book about?
This would be a tough
Andy gets
book.
trapped in a painting.
No, keep going. Keep going,
You're not
please.
And he runs into Rose Matter, and Rosie has to face herself, quote unquote, to help Andy escape. I'm not good at stories.
the painting, she has a different painting and she just sees somebody chipping at the painting until he pulls himself through.
Oh yeah, he chips away at the wall behind the painting and then
That's perfect. We did it. All right, let's start where we started the last round. Let's start talking potential, and then maybe we'll discover the book as we talk about that. So potential for Rose. I think Rose falls into that territory that you posited Alan might fall into, because everything that happened to Rosie in this story pretty much ended with this story, minus the tree that she visits. So maybe the tree might have something to do with it, because that's kind of the one piece left out. It's more or less implied that the rest of her life will be fairly uneventful and normal. She'll just carry everything that she saw and experienced in that with her. But I think the important takeaway for what is Rosie's potential after this story has always been a happy life.
Yeah.
I think that's what that story really builds to.
I really liked the seeds of tragedy and doubt that were sown into her story at the end before she figures out ultimately what she needs to do, because it paints a very King and also very realistic picture of when our characters go through something that is a little more supernatural, what it does to them and how it changes them moving forward. And typically they are going to be the kind of protagonists or heroes who, at the risk of their lives not being easy and not being what they deserve, they can't turn away from or ignore the reality of what they know our world is now capable of. And similar to Josh, I see the same potential in Rosie that we talked about with Alan. I actually see her not having the life she deserves. I see things not going well with Bill, and I see her continuing to fight and win. I just want to say that.
Yeah, that's the big thing is in the book, Rose Matter, she goes through this impossible situation and she survives. That's the takeaway from the book is that no matter how fucking bad things look, Rosie's going to survive it because that's what she does. She's fucking strong as hell. But I do think, at least from what the book gives us, I do think that Josh is right, that she was forced into the circumstances that created the book. And she had to react to what was happening to her. And now that that's over, I don't see her as a person that's like going to seek out further danger or I don't know. I think honestly, I just think she deserves a happy life. So I want her to have one.
Yeah.
It is maybe the main thing.
I don't think she'd seek it out. I just think it would happen to her and she would rise to the occasion. I guess that's what I meant by that.
Yeah.
Yeah. Once you've been opened to that use, you would see it. You'd be more...
that door does not close
Yeah.
for our king characters.
Right. And there's like something, they just have that sense. It's kind of like, going back to Alan, it's kind of like Alan's sense of once Gaunt's in town, he like senses things have changed.
And those things sense you as being different and being able to recognize them. And I think that even if she wasn't seeking things out, things would seek her out as a potential threat and she'd get drawn in. I mean, I hope she doesn't either, but...
All right, and then Andy, the only thing seeking out Andy is Red.
Right. I guess the law. But
yeah, the law.
This is tough because I think we might have discussed it last episode or maybe this was off mic, but like this is especially hard because these two characters have some pretty big parallels. I feel like.
Oh yeah, we talked
they
about
are
that.
both just unstoppable. Once they have their goal set in mind, they are going to achieve it. But whereas Rosie's real strength comes from her inner strength and adapting, the ability to adapt, Andy's the complete opposite. His strength is just steadfastness, like the ability not to change.
Yeah, I think Andy... Okay, this is kind of where we run into a problem with how the story they come from is told, because we didn't get Andy's story from Andy.
Right.
We get Andy's story secondhand, so we don't know what was going through Andy's head, or we don't know how he kept that drive in him and all that. So it's hard to know, what does Andy do next? Does Andy take the money, go to Zihuatanejo? Does he live out, as the movie implies, just like living out on the beach, doing whatever? Or does a serious manhunt for him begin? And, does he truly stay free?
Does he Ben Richards?
Yeah. If Andy is able just to go and be safe and be done, I think he would. If there was something if he still felt the chase in the back of his brain that he's still being hunted, I don't know what he would do. I don't know what he'd be capable of then.
This is not going to be a popular opinion because Andy is great and I love him. But Josh, what you said kind of struck home for me, helped me understand why Andy has not been as interesting to me as a character, because we are removed from him. It's, we get everything from Red, like you said, and we don't have that connection. So he just doesn't stand out to me as much as a protagonist.
It's like we talked about in the episode where we discussed Shawshank, is he almost isn't he isn't a character as much as he is a legend.
Yeah.
Like he's a myth.
He's elusive, even to the reader, which makes him cool, because it's kind of like Carrie, actually.
Yeah.
Okay, here's the book. Rosie marries a cop. again.
Why? No, I hate this book already. Fuck.
Rosie, she marries, she starts dating like an FBI agent who Andy is on the case of unsolved mysteries. And she's going through his files and finds it, and she puts it together, these clues, because after Red dies, they pull that 500 pages out of his butt, and they have the manifesto, and then she leads the charge to.
I hope people have listened to that episode, otherwise that was just such a weird comment.
Because Rosie, as shown in Rose Matter, has really fantastic detective skills.
Yeah.
I don't know. This is a hard one, guys.
This is, with the book argument, this one is especially hard because, as we're discovering right now, the epilogue for both of these characters is kind of, all right.
Yeah.
Not hard for me at all.
Yeah, I think I have an answer.
All right. Let's lock in our votes, Ben.
I think what won me over to this side is that I think it was CM was saying that the effect the supernatural has on people, and it hardens them and like changes them fundamentally, which is a difficulty, as we've seen with like Thad Beaumont doesn't handle it well.
Yeah.
But we know how resilient Rosie is. So I think it just makes her harder and stronger. Being in touch and knowing of the supernatural, it's bound to come up. If it's a King book, something weird's going to happen. And if Andy Dufresne, we have no frame of reference to how he would react if he got to Zihuatanejo and fucking had to fight the Loch Ness Monster or whatever.
Vampires.
Vampires. So I think that gives the edge, and I'm going to vote Rosie.
Yeah. What really won me over is when I said...
I'm laughing because I can't tell if that was a bit or not.
No, that's pure Josh Kahn.
You're right.
That's going to be on your fucking tombstone, my man.
Yeah, probably. In that, we don't know Andy. We know of Andy. And not being able to get into his head to suss out how he stands up against Rose makes this a no-brainer for me. So it's Rosie.
I vote Rosie too. You guys are right for sure.
Yeah, well, that was obvious.
All right, we have the semifinals of the protagonist matchup. So we'll come back to this, but we are next with protagonist is going to be Alan versus Rosie. Before we get to that matchup, let's find out who the winner will be facing on the antagonist side. So we are going to go Leland Gaunt versus George Stark. CM?
George is the dark star of my dreams.
That's beautiful.
Ben?
that's it. All right, yeah, that's
no. Sorry. And George's only flaw is that he's falling apart, and unless he takes over for Thad, I don't think that he's going to be someone who has longevity on his side, and I think that's a real weakness for him. At the same time, he's just so over the top, fun, and evil. I don't know. I think the lengths he's willing to go to make him a really powerful antagonist.
For this matchup, I almost have to divorce both characters from their books entirely.
Are we going to put them in a book together?
Oh, yeah, because I would read the fuck out of that book. But like for George, yeah, you're right. If we take the events of the book, unless we retcon and say, like, he won, and he's just Thad now.
He's just a whiny bummer.
Yeah, exactly. Then he's just a dick. There's nothing special about him. He's just an asshole. But if we take, like, George Stark from when he first shows up, his fucking murder tank form.
Yeah. Steel machine,
George Stark. How do you fucking compete with that? He's a force of goddamn nature. This might be jumping the gun, but here's the book I'm imagining. It's pretty much just Needful Things, but instead of Ace Merrill, George Stark shows up.
Yeah.
And it's Leland Gaunt is like, oh, this big dummy, I'll make him my second in command. and George Stark working against him in secret to be like, nah, this is my show.
That does seem pretty
That'd be
badass.
awesome.
Right?
Yeah. I think you stumbled on something interesting that I want to explore with Antagonists, the what if they won. I think that it's a very good point. Like, if George Stark won, I don't think he'd be Thad. He would just be the being that was alive.
It's just fun to think that he would just
Well, I mean,
turn into
he
that.
did-
And no,
he'd
at the
get
end
with
of the
his
book,
wife.
because they look the same. They have...
In the book, they don't.
Well, in the book, they don't look the same, but like when they look at them, they're like, they're the same guy.
Right.
Even though they don't
They can
look
see
the
it.
same.
Yeah.
They can tell that they're the same soul.
We're assuming that some of that essence would be there, but I guess
Yes.
it might not. He might still be George, just not kind of like a zombie.
Yeah.
Right. And I think that I just love the idea that George Stark wins and then he just like, well, I guess I'll write another book. And then he just becomes a famous author. And that's like,
He would be a serial killer.
Yeah,
He for sure would be a serial
He would
killer.
definitely just be... See, I don't even know if he would be a serial killer. I just think he would continue writing George Stark books and abuse the shit out of his family.
They wouldn't sell well though, because he can barely write. And he would start killing people who told him his book sucked.
that's true.
He would be a serial killer.
Also, I feel guilty for saying something against George Stark
You
because
should.
I love him. But everyone that he killed in spectacular fashion didn't see him coming.
Yeah.
So he caught nearly, I mean, there are a few times where it's not that one-sided or that much of a surprise because some people did know he was coming. They just didn't know how he would get to them.
One guy only had one arm.
That's true. One guy had
Not
his
a
penis
fair
in his
match.
mouth.
Yeah, also not a fair match.
Not a fair match. But I wonder how George Stark matches up against an enemy a prepared enemy.
Well, I guess Thad was a prepared enemy and George lost.
Yeah.
That's a good point.
Oh, I hate that argument.
But that's because George Stark is 90% hubris.
I just want George to win so that we can face off George and Alan.
It's a good point though, because as if preparedness is a huge deal in these kinds of hypothetical who would win kind of things. What is Leland Gaunt if not like just fucking prepared for any outcome?
Yeah.
This is hard.
Well, going on to Leland, I think what's great to take that same argument, what if they win? Fucking nothing changes for Leland.
Yeah.
He lost in Needful Things, but I don't think he needs to skip a step.
Minor setback and he's going to recover and
Yeah.
continue on. He also, I hate, like, clearly there's just something wrong with my brain. George Stark is charming for some reason.
Oh yeah, for sure.
And I initially thought like, okay, Leland Gaunt isn't, but then I remembered actually he is.
oh,
And
he's extremely charming.
People see, I guess it's the movie version that I still have stuck in my head. People see in him what they want to see, what they find charming.
Mm-hmm.
So now I've hit this weird crossroads where to me, Leland Gaunt probably just looks like George Stark.
No, Leland Gaunt looks like an old Alexander Skarsgård.
Why old?
Because Leland's old.
He wouldn't look old. But he is definitely someone who is prepared. I mean, he saw Alan coming, although he underestimated him, and that was his downfall. And it's given just how great he is, it's surprising that Alan bested him.
And I think that is because it was the one situation he wasn't prepared for.
He was too proud.
Yeah, he's like when he's standing under the awning watching it.
I'm sorry, it just occurred to me that it doesn't matter which one of these wins this bracket. Both of them have fought Alan Pangborn.
Yeah. Wow, that just completely slipped my brain. Well, and last time George got the drop on Pangborn, so it's my turn, so I'm gonna kick things off. I think purely based on the fact that both of these people were defeated, but only one of them was even affected. So Leland Gaunt has gotta take the win here for me. Because, yeah, he just moved on and carried on with his normal shit.
I so want to give it to George, and I just can't. I know it's not the right answer. Unless Ben's going to give it to Leland, and then I'll give George my pity vote.
That's not how this works.
Dang it. Yeah, Leland Gaunt, I think, is just a more powerful, not cooler, but more powerful antagonist. And I think he's got it.
It really depends on your metric for measuring, because no, you know what? I was going to say George is the more interesting character, but he's not. Leland Gaunt is, I would read Just Needful Things again, set in a different town.
Yeah.
Can Leland kick a bottle of Jack off the table with his booted foot into his hand?
God, that was cool, though. Huh?
Oh, might have to change your vote.
With enough
no.
practice, I'm sure he could. I'm sure he did it
deciding-
centuries ago.
The deciding factor is, Leland Gaunt's an immortal. He's committed an unthinkable amount of evil for a long time. So,
Do you guys find it interesting that when we're talking about our protagonists, it doesn't come down to who is more powerful like it does for our antagonists? We can base things more on willpower and heart and character with our antagonists. I mean, obviously, duh, but it just strikes me sometimes like, oh, can't really pull out but George just really got heart.
yeah. You can,
He's a real go-getter.
It's hard to be like, George Stark can tear a guy in half with his bare hands, but Leland's just so good with his daughter. Like, that's not a thing.
But George is very good with the kids.
Yeah, they did like him.
He's a good dad.
Oh my God.
All right, we have Leland moving on, and let's find out who Leland will face. We have Randall Flagg versus Annie Wilkes. Ben, take it away.
Fuck me. This is going to be real tough, because pretty much all the arguments I just used for Leland Gaunt are also true for Randall Flagg.
Mm-hmm.
Charming, possibly immortal, existing across multiple timelines. Pretty much the ultimate villain. Gets eaten by a dumb baby spider, though.
Yeah,
So-
that is a real bummer.
Kind of lame.
It's a real bitch way to go out.
Spoilers, I guess.
It's not enough information to be.
Yeah, Flagg is just fucking iconic. Like, what can you say? But they both are, aren't they?
Yeah.
Yeah.
If I may jump in.
Yes, please.
Something revisiting the argument from the last one. What if they win? It's something I mentioned last episode about Flagg being kind of a wiener. In that, like, if Flagg wins, what happens? He does something stupid and ruins it some other way. Like, Flagg is a failure. Randall Flagg is a failure.
If he wins, I assume the world ends.
Well, it depends on which flag. Sometimes
Yeah.
his sites are smaller, and sometimes they're on the like kind of worldwide scale. Sometimes they're multi-world.
Well,
scale.
imagine the Stand, for instance. His end game there was to bomb Boulder to oblivion with the fleet of fighter jets.
Right. Then I would assume he would find a way to kill all the people in Vegas. Then the world's over.
Yeah,
Because he's...
No, but
and
he
then
has
he
to
just
have-
jumps to, like, it's diabolical. It's end of the world. But then what?
Your argument is this villain extincted humanity. That's not enough. What are you talking about?
Because
No, there's still plants alive.
there's still plans.
What the hell?
It's because the scope with which you measure Flagg is multi-worlds, because just the scope of that character.
Right.
Because and one of the reasons that Flagg fails as many times as he does is because everything is kind of low stakes for him. If it doesn't work out, he moves on to the next world. He's just...
That's literally the same argument we just used for Gaunt, though. He lost. It did not affect him.
It does not matter.
So are you saying this is a pro or a con? I don't understand.
I'm saying that the if he wins is just kind of like, all right. It's, even though it is a mass extinction, I feel like it's still like, all right, everyone died. Of course, because it's also, of course, everyone died. He has all this fucking... If Flagg had won in the end of the Stand, none of us would have been surprised. If he had been able to make all those things right. Like, yeah, he's got a bajillion powers. Yeah, of course he killed everything. Like, it's just not as shocking. The difference between that and Leland Gaunt being Leland makes other people destroy themselves, where Randall Flagg just goes nuts sometimes.
I'm having trouble with the different flags because if we're talking about the stand flag, and I kind of want them all to be grouped into one.
Yeah.
But his power comes from people worshiping him. He needs people. He needs people to be alive. And so him messing up and always killing everyone is going to be a real problem for his end game. But that's not always the case with him either, which draws, and we're not talking about Annie, but it just draws an interesting parallel. You know, Flagg needs to be worshipped. That's where his strength is. Annie's is that she worships Paul. But then you also have that kind of cool parallel with she's this sort of, not in the positive way it's normally used, but a goddess. They're both these kind of godlike figures. Flagg is kind of this powerful, otherworldly thing, not just a person.
That's an interesting point. That how do I say this? Because I think I just made up my mind, but the winner isn't going to be decided by their strengths as much as the loser's weaknesses. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Because, okay, Annie Wilkes, her strengths are that she's big, strong, and crazy.
Well, we could reframe that as resilient.
Yes.
She's unpredictable.
She's a hero to all of us. But, like, she's so human. It makes reading about her so fascinating, right?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas Flagg, you're right, he's so big. And CM, you're right. There are so many, like, it's hard to nail him down.
It's like Superman. There are no stakes because he's all powerful.
Yeah.
That's why you have to have a kryptonite. Otherwise, there's no tension.
Yeah.
In this fictional book with Flagg and Annie Wilkes,
Jesus Christ.
like, I imagine it being like no action. I imagine it being a battle of wills, a Randall Flagg basically trying to get Annie to pledge herself to him because of how powerful she is, and Annie being resilient against that.
Here's my book. Annie Wilkes is Flagg's Lloyd, and Flagg is Annie's Paul. If I had to figure out which one of them would survive that relationship, my money's on Annie.
Jesus.
That would be it's misery, but the person Annie has kidnapped is the devil. And the battle of wills. I got my vote.
That's bonkers.
Annie.
Going with all right.
Yeah.
As surprised as I am, like I said, it's really dependent more on weakness than strength, because Flagg, he's too much. It's too much of a good thing. When we're like trying to decide, which Flagg is this? We don't even know. There's so many aspects. How can you judge which one it is that we're supposed to be voting for? Like, Annie is so singular, and like in the book, just you think of her as this solid stone being, and there's something just so fucking powerful about that. Annie Wilkes.
Wow.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter, but Randall Flagg is my vote. That is a bracket busting choice.
I wasn't
guys,
expecting
bracket
it.
up.
Jesus Christ.
What turned you, or were you thinking Flagg?
I was thinking Flagg.
I was too.
It's
initially.
just good. It goes back to the first episode when I told you guys my opinions are wildly fluctuating and highly contradicting of themselves. It's just she's so fucking powerful.
Well,
she has no powers, but she's so fucking powerful, guys.
What she has is that like thread, that thing that we're looking for, and that's so easy to find in our antagonists and so hard to find, or I'm sorry, so easy to find in our protagonists, but hard to find in our antagonists. And I think that's the thing.
You quietly root for Annie sometimes to
that-
be better, not to hurt people. But you want her to be better.
And I think she would devour Flagg, honestly.
that was what I think decided me. Is that book? First of all, I would read that book Holy shit, that would be amazing. But I agree. I can't see that book happening and Annie Wilkes not coming out on top. I just can't.
That's wild. Jesus. All right. So for antagonists, we will have the battle between Leland, Gaunt, and Annie Wilkes. But first, let's jump over to the semifinals. Alan Pangborn versus Rosie Mclendon for top protagonist.
I know this is designed to be this way, but I hate it.
Yeah, they're not all easy picks. It just the point is it gets so much harder.
But you know that my thing is I can't have one answer.
Yes, the March Madness was created specifically to hurt you, CM. Ben, you start last one, so I'll start on this one. Alan's a gunslinger. What I don't know how much more there is to say. Here's what I want to try to say something that each character has over the other, and then we'll go into our votes.
Okay.
Because I think that putting these two characters next to each other, I think the only factors we've talked about why they're great. Let's talk about why one has a leg up over the other. That's what Alan has over Rosie. Is he's a gunslinger. He has the power of the white, maybe not at his command, but at his back. And I think his will has become stronger since experiencing all this. As far as where Rosie gets the edge over Alan is how strong it made her as a person after this. I think she comes out more well-rounded as just a person and as a winning protagonist at the end of her story.
Rosie, her whole book is building her up. She starts at the lowest level like she could of her life, and the whole book is her building herself up to be this strong, independent person. Alternatively, Alan Pangborn starts, he's just like a cop, and everything that happens to him, I think it doesn't bring him down to the point where like Sad was or some other protagonist maybe, but these things have weighed on him. And so he's definitely more world weary. But I think that might be in a King book. I think world weariness might be a strength.
It's going to sound like I don't have a thought of my own because I was thinking all the things that you guys are saying. Because yes, Alan is a gunslinger and he has the strength and he can call on the power of the white clearly. Rosie is a gunslinger. When faced with the impossible, she perseveres. And even beyond that, she keeps going. I think kind of to what you were saying, Ben, this is what really, like I was thinking about to kind of help me pick mine. They both suffer loss. They both suffer the loss of their children. And we do see Alan struggling through that and almost not winning that battle, feeling like he's less because of that experience. And we see Rosie, in contrast to that, persevere and do everything that she can to overcome that and beyond. I think she's just stronger. As strong as he is.
All right, let's vote. Ben, you're up first.
This is, I'm gonna say this. I've said this after every single one this whole episode. This is really hard, but I think my metric that I'm using is this is the semifinals. The person that wins this is going to be going up against the best of the bad guys. Who would I want? If I were in the middle of this, who would I want coming to stop the bad guy? And Alan Pangborn has the experience. And while I do think that Rosie Mclendon probably is stronger, like mentally, emotionally, like she has that perseverance, I just think Alan has seen this before, and I think he has the edge. So I'm going to vote for Alan Pangborn.
I think you hit the nail on the head. I think that if I'm going to make one of these a champion for other people, then Alan is who gets that call for me. So I'm going to go Alan Pangborn.
I also think you both hit the nail on the head. Who do you want on your side? Like, who would be a stronger, better person to fight. And Alan, he has the white. He has a can of snakes. Rosie doesn't. So instead, she uses her bare hands to rip a man's jaw off. And my vote's going for Rosie.
All right, Alan Pangborn. Moving on to the finals. Now it is time for Leland Gaunt versus Annie Wilkes. So let's say something that one has over the other. CM, you're up first.
CM already looks angry.
I am so no. I had wouldn't it have been lovely if it was like Rosie versus Annie, just the ladies? It would have been so cool. It's gonna be the dudes. I just know it is. Anyway, Annie Wilkes. It's hard for me to think of something that she would have over Leland Gaunt, because I think that Leland is just mentally in a healthier place. I don't see Annie. What I felt like she had over Flagg is I could see her obsessing over him, and that's where her power is. She wouldn't be able to do that with Leland Gaunt, and I think that's kind of the edge that he has over her. Again, her edge, I guess, would just have to be her resilience, just her immovability. That's not a word, is it?
No.
Sure.
No, I agree. About Flagg especially. Like, I hadn't put it into words correctly, but I think you just said it. It's the reason is she would obsess over him, and he would completely not sense any danger.
He would
just
miss it, yeah.
This rules! And then all of a sudden, she's breaking his fucking legs. I am trying to think what Leland has that Annie Wilkes doesn't is a magic store.
Oh, that's true.
And I'm trying to think in this matchup, what would happen were Annie Wilkes to walk into Leland, into Needful Things?
Man, they're both about obsession.
I can't decide whether she would be Leland's easiest mark or if she would be completely immune.
She would get a book that when she read it, she was misery.
Yeah.
Or when she read it, would she be like, "This is garbage. I'm going to tie you up until you give me a better book."
No.
Oh, shit.
No, I don't think so.
I think that's what Annie has over Leland. She would be like,
being batshit crazy.
"My needful thing is trash. Try again, motherfucker."
Yeah, it's hard to say because the thing is, Annie Wilkes, the thing that Annie Wilkes has is just fucking unpredictability.
Yeah.
You can't fucking read this lady. She's I want to say logically, like, yeah, she would walk into Needful Things and immediately be in his grasp. But there's just something, maybe it's just that I don't want it, but there's something in my head that's like, she would not like this guy.
There's
She
something
would
so
see
wrong
through
with
him.
her. It gives her a leg up.
Yeah, I just think she would see whatever he was trying to sell and be like, see that it was garbage and get real mad about it.
Yeah. I think that's perfect. I think Annie Wilkes would not step foot in Needful Things. And I think she would see the way people are going in and out, and like, because Annie Wilkes sees more than anyone gives her credit for.
For sure.
And I think that's the thing she has over Leland Gaunt is focus. Annie has the ability to focus on one thing. Leland does not.
And like what gets Leland's foot in the door in Castle Rock is that like Northeastern social norms of people have to check out the new shop. And Annie doesn't give a shit about social norms. She wouldn't go anywhere fucking near it.
Yeah.
And she would be the one to, just as the big fucking finale is going off, she shows up and's like, "What? You guys are all being too loud." And then she run Leland Gaunt over with a wheat thresher. Like,
well, this brings me to what Leland has over Annie, and that's resources. You take that, yeah, Annie doesn't come into Needful Things, but Leland could put the whole, like, she can't fight the whole town. I mean, she might. She'd try. But if push comes to shove, not only does Leland not have to get his hands dirty to handle the situation, but we've seen what happens. We saw what he did to Ace. Like, we saw a piece of his true form and how much more powerful he can be. So I think just from like he has the power and resources edge.
Okay, I'm asking you guys this because I need your help because I'm really torn. If we're saying that Annie would be capable of besting Flagg, I'm curious between Flagg and Gaunt, who would come out on top? Because if it's Flagg, I feel like Annie would best Gaunt.
So the reason, keep in mind, I voted for Flagg, but the reason I can concede that argument is because of that Lloyd-Flagg relationship. Mm-hmm. Leland, first of all, would not accept that.
He doesn't need anybody.
Yeah, he wouldn't accept that. But Flagg's ego needs that. Mm-hmm. So he would let his guard down to let her so far in that she could take things over. But in a Flagg versus Leland battle, I would probably end up giving the edge to Randall Flagg.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah, I think so.
I feel like it takes, at the level of evil and of potential of these two villains, I think one just stands above the other.
Leland's downfall is pride, though, and I don't think he'd see Annie as the wild card that she is, who could thwart his plans.
I disagree. He spotted Alan immediately.
But he underestimated him.
He did.
And I think because of her mental illness, he would underestimate her. Like, oh, she's not even bothering to come to my shop.
But
I'll have somebody play a trick on her.
But Annie also isn't the chief of police. And having to put out all the fires
she is
around
in my
town.
book.
in that Annie is so much more single focused. So I guess the advantage she has over Leland is actually what would lead to her downfall against Leland. In that focus would be too great, and she wouldn't be able to skirt Leland's notice, I believe. So I'm first on this one. I'm gonna go Leland Gaunt.
Vote with your heart.
Sam, you're up.
Oh my God, it's so hard.
With your heart.
I would go with Leland, but again, I think he would underestimate Annie just enough that she could do something. And I'm going to go with Annie.
Ben, this is a big one.
This sucks.
Takes us to the finals.
This is a big one, and this is so fucking hard. They're two of my favorite books. And this one, I have to annoy all of our readers by throwing out all the metrics that we've discussed all episode. And something that we really haven't, we talked about in earlier episodes and used, but they haven't so much this episode, is just who's the more interesting character? Who do I want to read more about?
Ooh.
And would they win? I don't know. But do I think this character is infinitely more fascinating? Yes. It's Annie Wilkes.
Wow.
I thought you were going to say Gaunt. The way you were going with that.
This is insane.
This is not a logic-based decision. I will freely admit that. I'm sorry for ruining all of your brackets. It's Annie. It has to be.
It's funny, that argument as far as who would you want to read another book about. And for me, that was immediately, it's definitely not Annie. Only because...
What would it be about?
Okay. What makes Annie's
the exact, like, not who do I want to read more about, but like which book am I going to revisit more?
Well, if you're revisiting like another Needful, like Gaunt's Next Town, it wouldn't be about Gaunt necessarily. Right. You would be reading about new characters, and that would be the focal point because Gaunt's gonna Gaunt. If you're reading about Annie, I mean, by that same logic, Annie's gonna Annie. I hate that I just said that twice. I'm so sorry.
We tried Castle Rock season 2 and didn't go well.
But Annie, she would still be a major, like more of a focal point, I think, than Gaunt would be in another story about them continuing to do the thing that makes them an antagonist.
I guess all I'm saying is I want to read Misery again. And also, how lame would it be if our finals was
Needful Things?
Alan, it was just Needful Things.
Yeah, I thought that occurred to me too. Not where I thought this bracket was going.
I was desperate for this to be Annie versus Rosie because I would have just left my own house.
All right, let's get to the finals. Our final matchup, Alan Pangborn versus Annie Wilkes. Now I'm just going to open it freeform. Whatever off the top of your head to say that we haven't said in regards to putting these two head to head.
Is this a fair argument? I feel like, okay, we're a Stephen King based or inspired podcast. And usually the antagonist, I don't necessarily feel comfortable voting for Annie Wilkes over Alan because I feel like that's disingenuous to the spirit of what we do.
Yeah, it's hard because last week I had told Josh on our way to our cars that, like, I think the finale should be what we said earlier. We just hash out, we do a rough draft of the book that these two characters are the main character. Well, yeah, you're right. That's just the hero wins. So here's my thought. It's 10 years after the events of Needful Things. Alan has broken up with Polly.
I love where you're going with this.
They've fallen out.
Yeah.
And he's driving through Colorado or whatever. When he gets in a car wreck and is saved by Annie Wilkes, who's alive somehow. But here's the thing. They fall in love.
I was going down a similar path before you started that, and I'm totally on board with that. I was thinking, I guess I see Annie kind of as not a child, but in the way that the children that Alan has come across were sort of victims and needed protecting. I kind of see Annie that way too, and I feel like Alan would have the ability to charm her and either trick her and defeat her or just help her.
Yeah,
and that might be another form of defeat too, but also in my fanfic version, I did want them to fall in love.
Yeah, okay. Maybe falling in love was a little flippant.
But
yeah,
they sure fuck.
But they
Oh my
for
God.
sure
I-
fuck.
Absolutely.
She freaky.
You guys.
She freaky.
Oh my God.
She's a golem.
What?
She's
That's
Annie
true,
Wilkes
yeah.
through and through, top to
Right,
bottom,
yeah,
back
yeah,
to front.
Back to front. Sorry, I don't know.
Why did you say it like that? Why? Why did you do that?
It's,
Back to front.
you say it with some stank. It's a thing.
Steak. Do not put steak on this finale, Cian. God.
But yeah, no, I agree. I can see it being much less a, thriller or a horror book, but just like, yeah, Alan Pangborn just trying to help this woman who has killed a lot of people, but also genuinely needs help.
When he's a detective, so he would be able to figure out that she's a serial killer.
Right.
And he'd be interested in putting an end to that. But I think he would do it in a kind of like a strengths-based, asset-focused, empowering way.
Yeah, Alan seems like the guy who has time for that. I think that where Alan has the edge here that none of Annie's previous opponents had, underestimating Annie.
Mhm.
Oh, I thought you were going to say
Alan-
the ability to walk.
Oh, no. Alan would not, under no circumstance, underestimate Annie Wilkes. Because he almost entirely has an accurate read on everyone he meets.
But
good point.
would he be distracted by 10 other things a bunch of times? So he'd never...
Boobs,
Oh.
butt,
No, I
legs.
just...
Yeah.
Jeez. No, I just mean...
Not on
It-
Annie.
Oh, okay.
He-
10
I
other
misunderstood.
projects,
She freaky.
like what's on ESPN,
Okay.
what Polly's making for dinner.
No, just... I'm thinking about his instincts about Leland Gaunt were like instant and accurate, but he was thwarted by so many dumb things.
Yeah, but he never acted on them because he had to go return some like Tupperware or whatever.
But also the things that Leland were doing were impossible.
Yeah.
And
Annie's not
he
as
was
subtle.
not ready to he was not ready to open that can of worms back up in his psyche to accept something supernatural.
So Annie would go peacefully with Alan.
Yeah.
She'd be put in a not jail, or not prison, but
The
like a psychiatric
here's
facility.
the book. After a long manhunt, Alan arrests Annie, takes her to a the small town jail where a snowstorm happens, so they're trapped, the two of them together in a police station. She is now the one handcuffed to a bed, and he is taking care of her. Also, they fuck.
Jeez, you had me until the very end of that. Or what if, to draw her out, Alan writes a book and,
Nope.
I know, I
and
like
she
this.
becomes a fan, and then he makes sure that he's in the right place at the right time,
I love
and
the
she
idea.
kidnaps him. He
I'm
lets
going
himself
undercover.
be kidnapped.
I have
Yeah.
to write a best-selling book.
Best-selling book series targeted towards one specific
Yeah.
woman.
I don't know why, but I just like that.
No.
It makes me think, I'm a police officer. I'm going undercover. What's your cover? I have to win an Oscar. What?
It's the long game.
This has fallen apart.
Yes,
Yeah.
let's get our votes in. I don't remember who's going first
Me
in this
neither.
round. I think I went first, so it's CM. You get the first vote.
Alan Pangborn. But I still think that he would either best her or just be able to help bring her in and stop her. He is an officer, a detective, and it just seems fitting that he would be able to do that.
I agree. I have to vote for Alan Pangborn for one simple reason. That's how books work.
Oh yeah, that's
The
true too.
protagonist wins.
Yep, we wrap it up. Alan Pangborn wins this year's March Madness.
Woo!
What a
Wow.
wild
Oh, the confetti.
ride.
Oh man,
Oh.
fireworks!
Yeah, I bought those specials.
Amazing.
I don't have a license for them, so you shouldn't talk about them on air.
We're indoors, so
We're in Iowa. You don't need one.
That's a very good point. All right, that's it for this episode of Derry Public Radio. As always, thank you for listening. If you're out there and we busted your bracket, sorry, but you have another chance next year. Speaking of next year, please send us your thoughts on how our bracket turned out, and send us your suggestions for what next year's March Madness bracket should be. For Benjamin Graham and CM Alexander, I'm Joshua Kahn, reminding you, see you next year.
Hey everyone, CM Alexander here. Thank you for listening to March Madness Part 3. We hope you enjoyed it. You can probably tell that we had a ton of fun with March Madness this year. And as always, we would love to hear from you. How did we do? Do you disagree? Agree? Did we change your mind? Did we make your heads explode with rage? Let us know. Send us your brackets. We love to see those. You can email them to us at derrypublicradio@gmail.com, or you can post them on our social media at Derry Public Radio. That's all for now, listeners. Goodbye.